ready?
Yeah, Ranganath.
Standards of conduct and spiritual training. So, I'm starting, okay? The knowledge on which the doer of works in yoga has to found all his action and development has, for the keystone of its structure, a more and more concrete perception of unity, the living sense of an all-pervading oneness. I'll stop here. Okay. So the main obstacle in yoga is whichever the system, it is the ego. So if the ego goes away, you feel that you are separate from everybody, that feeling goes away and you start seeing the essential unity and oneness of things. Okay? This is what is the main thing. This is what is being said. The oneness. The ego is one of the greatest obstacles to spiritual realization. So, the less the doer of works, and the doer of works, when we are doing all work, whatever we are doing, we have the feeling that I am doing. Okay? So, when the ego disappears, you realize that you are doing nothing at all. You means your soul, because you are identifying yourself with your body, mind, life. Your body is acting, your mind is having thoughts, and you are having emotions. So you think that your body, mind, life is the main doer. But when the identification shifts from the body, mind, life to his soul, to the consciousness of the soul, then you realize that you are doing nothing at all. You, the body, mind, life doer is now no more the doer. You are the watcher. You become the watcher. And you are watching. And who is making you do things? Who is making the body, mind, life act, think, and emote? It's a universal nature. So this is the image which helps you tremendously for this is the sea, the infinite sea, which is universal nature. Each wave is being produced only by the sea. But if the sea is a human being, this human being is thinking that I am the one moving in the universe. Okay? But when the wave disappears and falls and vanishes, then it realizes that it's part of the sea. This is the main thing that is being said in this para. Okay? The knowledge on which the doer of works in yoga has to found all his action and development has, for the keystone of its structure, a more and more concrete perception of unity, the living sense of an all-pervading oneness. Everything is one. Matter is one, which we can even see. Then, in the which we can't see, the prana, the universe of energy, which is the second level from the bottom. That also is all one. One energy taking different forms. Then you come to the mental world. There's a whole world of thought, of mind, substance. It's a substance, very, very subtle substance in which thoughts are there. They are entering into each one, and each one is contributing also his thoughts to others, and it's like a sea in motion. Okay? So this is what he said. All pervading oneness. He moves. Who is the he? The doer of works, the human being. He moves in the increasing consciousness of an all existence as an indivisible whole. You realize that everything is connected. Theoretically and mentally, even science has accepted this. They have accepted it, but it's not a spiritual experience. But by logic also you can come to it that everything is connected. Okay? There are very, very interesting things which can be said about this, but we will be going off our tangent. But when we give examples, it becomes very concrete. Okay? So I'll give you one example which just now entered my head from the universe. Okay? And it is this, that all the trees that are there in a garden, for instance, this is what Narad told me, because he is a botanist. He is very fond of plants and flowers and all. So he told me that when there is a problem in one tree, there is a communication that takes place between all the trees. Okay, there is one. So there is oneness, basic oneness. Just as when a tiger approaches and all the animals and birds start warning each other, there is a lot of uh, bird calls warning that there is a danger below. Exactly in the same way, the trees also go on warning everybody else. Okay? And there is a very interesting experiment also which was made. Okay, I just briefly touch upon that to show you the oneness of things. In one room, in a scientific experiment, one type of plant, okay, only one type of plant, let us say about 100 pots with one type of plant, was put in a room. Then one person enters, it's an experiment. One person enters and harms one tree. For instance, he breaks a branch. Okay. Now that small plant will exhibit signs of pain, which can be recorded on an oscillograph. It can be recorded. So that's a pattern that shows that will be the pain. And the pattern for pleasure will be something else. Okay? Plants do respond to, like animals, to pleasure and pain. Now, next day, when the same man who has harmed one plant comes into the room, before touching any plant, all the other plants also start having the same fear of pain. Okay? If you fix the oscillograph to anyone far away, 100 plants, they will exhibit the same. So they are so sensitive. They feel the presence of this man and the pain starts immediately. So these are all experiments made, and that's why now we know that trees can be, they are always communicating with each other. You know, when I was in the press, there was a gentleman from America. He ordered a printing of a book called Talks with Trees. Okay? And he asked me to print, and we printed and exported that book, Talks with Trees. And I told him, all this was 30 years ago. So I told him, and we were in touch with email. So I told him that, you know, mother also could talk to trees. And so he put mother's quotation also in his book. Okay. So, and what is that? Mother is walking in the garden to pick some vegetables, and some vegetables are telling her, don't take me, I'm not ready. Not in language, but in vibrations. Okay. Don't take me, I'm not ready. Others which are ready are saying, take me, I'm ready. Okay. So this is the unification, the sense of indivisible whole. I am talking only of plants, but it is there in everything. At the animal level, at the human level, there is an underlying unity which we don't very easily see, but we can think of it. Okay, so I go to the next sentence. These personal action and its results can no longer be or seem a separate movement, mainly or entirely determined by the egoistic free will of an individual, himself separate in the mass. So, Surendra put free in inverted commas to show you that there is no such freedom at all. Okay, it's a word used in a very ironical sense. We think that we have a free will, but we have no free will at all. Our so-called free will is nothing but universal nature making us act, okay, or think, or emote, also same. Okay. When he realizes that when the ego disappears, he realizes that he is not free at all. He is the free will. He is free. When you have no ego, you go to the level 2, the spiritual planes of consciousness, and you are only watching. You are free, but you have no power to act in the world. Okay? So this is the experience of the Brahmic consciousness. Our works are part of an indivisible cosmic action. So whatever you are doing is only part of it. It's not at all initiated by you. It's initiated by the universe. Himself separated in the mass. Our works are part of an indivisible cosmic action. They are put, or more accurately, put themselves in their place in the whole, out of which they arise, and their outcome is determined by forces that overpass us. So, again, to come back to the idea of the sea and the wave. Okay? The wave is formed by the sea, but there are so many forces which are acting on the sea. No? There are currents, okay? There is movement of all sorts of things. So all these things are affecting the wave. If the current is contrary to the wave movement, the wave will be small. If the current is in favor of the wave, it will be big. So this is the features of the sea in the universe. All these forces are determining the action of each one. Okay, that's what he's saying. That, but we don't see that at our level. But when you get rid of your ego and go to the Brahmic consciousness, then you see all these things. That world action, the world action of the universal nature, acting as one, that world action in its vast totality and in every petty detail is the indivisible movement of the one who manifests himself progressively in the cosmos. So every small thing is determined. That's what is being said. That world action in its vast totality and in every petty detail is the indivisible movement of the one who manifests himself progressively in the cosmos. Man too becomes progressively conscious of the truth of himself. Truth of himself is either the self or the psychic being. Becomes conscious of the truth of himself and the truth of things outside himself. Okay? In proportion as he awakens to this one within him and outside him. Within him is the psychic, and outside him the universe, and he feels when he is in the self-consciousness of the self, he sees that there is a oneness everywhere. There is a connectedness. Okay? And to the occult, miraculous and significant process of its forces in the motion of nature. So he has used three words: occult, miraculous, significant. So occult, hidden. It's not very obvious, but it's there. Occult, hidden. Miraculous. It seems to be things are happening. That's what miraculous. Miracles are actually happening all the time in the physical world. But we don't think of them as miracles. So this is what happens. There are natural laws in all the planes of consciousness. So they are used only the miracles in the physical world, but we don't see them as miracles. Just think. Imagine, out of mud is coming out beautiful roses. Okay? How on earth is that beautiful rose, beautiful lotus coming out of mud? This is not a miracle. We don't think of it as a miracle. But miracles are there everywhere. So, we can't fly, but the bird can fly. And how to make the bird fly? Its bones are hollow. Its wings are made of very fine fibers. Okay, so these are all miracles, but we don't think of it. We can't walk up a wall, but a lizard can walk very easily. Okay, how is it doing? So these are all miracles, but we don't consider them to be miracles. We consider them to be. So when you go to other higher planes of consciousness, the laws are there. There is nothing called a miracle. But for us, it becomes a miracle because we don't think that those laws can exist. Okay, so that's what he's saying. Man too becomes progressively conscious of the truth of himself and the truth of things, and proportionally awakens to this one within him and outside him, to the occult, miraculous and significant process of its forces in the motion of nature. So every motion of nature, there is matter, there is life, and there is mind, and each thing is significant. It has got a very clear function and a purpose. Okay? This action, this movement, the movement in the cosmos, is not confined even in ourselves and those around us to the little fragmentary portion of the cosmic activities of which we, in our superficial consciousness, are aware. I am only aware of my body-mind life, what I am thinking, what I am having emotions, and what I am acting. I am aware only of that, and not even that fully. Okay, we are not even aware that our heart is beating. We are not even aware that digestion is taking place in the stomach. Okay, we are not blood is circulating. So little do we know about ourselves, of which we now superficial consciousness. So Abdul clubbed all this into only a superficial consciousness. Are aware. It is supported. What is supported? The movement in nature. Okay? It is supported. We are a part of that. Okay? So, it is supported by an immense underlying environing existence subliminal to our minds. The wave does not know that it is part of the sea. Okay? And the sea is determining its action. Man is absolutely ignorant. He is thinking he is doing. Environing existence, subliminal. Subliminal means below the surface to our minds or subconscious. Subliminal to our minds or subconscious. Now, he is using two words which is very interesting. The subliminal is the intraconscious and the subconscious is below. Okay. As I said, if you think of yourself as a house, the subliminal is the inside the house at the back of the plot. It's open to the sky because then you have access to everything in the universe. That's the subliminal. And subconscious is the cellar, okay, into which all sorts of things are put which you don't need immediately. So we're using both the words. So all this is there. In fact, you are surrounded. So I'm using the word environing. You are environed by the subconscious below you, the inconscient even below you, but the inconscient is not acting so much. It's the subconscious that is acting on you. Then the intraconscious inside you, then the superconscious above you, and even around you. Okay, your aura, which is the circumconscious. So you are completely. So I'm using only one word: environing. So up, down, inside, outside. You are environed. This is so we don't know at all this. Okay? Environing existence, subliminal to our minds or subconscious, and it is attracted by an immense transcending existence which is superconscious to our nature. So this is what man is. A tiny little drop of water in a vast ocean. And now we see that we are not even the wave. We are just one small drop of water. Our action arises as we ourselves have emerged out of a universality of which we are not aware. Our body has come from matter. Exactly in the same way, our vital has come from the universal prana. Our mind has come from the universal plane of thought. We give it a shape by our personal temperament, personal mind, and will of thought or force or impulse or desire. But the true truth of things, the true law of action, exceeds these personal and human formations. They are too small, they don't make any difference at all. So, the true truth of things. Why is saying true truth? Again, we discuss that Srinath uses perfect perfection, true truth. Because at each level, the divine is there and there is a truth to that plane of consciousness. But that truth is a gradation. I keep telling you now that there is a gradation. Remember that gradation. At each grade, there is a truth, but it's partial. Only at the highest level is it complete. Okay? And what is the highest level? That is another question. Is there really ever a highest? Because if there is a highest, then God will be limited. So there is no higher. God is unlimited. It goes on and on. But compared to our present consciousness, there is a higher and a highest. Even when you go into the supramental, there is a higher and a highest. Okay? So mind-boggling to our normal understanding of things. Every standpoint, I'm reading the next sentence. Every standpoint every man-made rule of action which ignores this indivisible totality of the cosmic movement, whatever its utility in external practice, is to the eye of spiritual truth an imperfect view and a law of the ignorance. So, he has given you the background for building the theory of the standards of conduct. In other words, there are grades in the universe, and there are grades. There is the material plane, there is a universal the mind plane, then there is the life plane and mind plane, and spiritual planes also one by one. So at each level, the laws go on changing, and if the laws go on changing, our behavior also will go on changing. Now he is concentrating only on the human standard of conduct. If you are at the animal level, the laws are very different from our human level where we have a mind. When the mind comes in, we can't do what the animal can do. But the animal is doing it perfectly valid. Okay? It is jumping on another animal and eating it up. It's perfectly valid. That's the law. There's nothing wrong in it. There's no right and wrong. But when you come to the mind level, the laws change. You can't do that anymore. So exactly in the same way, when you go to the spiritual plane of consciousness, all your ideas of morality at our level, which are very, very valid, they disappear. They take on a different interpretation and a different understanding of things. So this is what the whole chapter is about. And normally there are 4 planes of consciousness and 4 standards of conduct. Before we proceed, we've got 15 minutes, we'll read the next one. But before that, I just tell you, because you can anticipate. The first law of conduct is the ego. When the ego is there, you are fully within your rights to develop yourself. So there is a certain insistence on oneself. That's fine, because you are feeling yourself separate and you need to develop yourself. You have the full right to develop yourself. That's it. In fact, in every country now, in India we have just introduced the right to education. Every child has got the right to be educated, and the government has to provide for that. Exactly in the same way, when you are at the egoistic level, you have the right to develop yourself. So that's the function of the ego. But once you have done that, then the ego has to be given up. Ego is the helper, ego is the bar when you want to go higher up. Okay? Exactly in the same way, all the laws apply to that. Okay? Thought was the helper, thought is the bar when you want to go above it. Emotion is good also, but emotion also becomes a bar when you want to go up. Everything. The laws that apply at one level are not valid at the other level. So this is what he's saying. And the first law is that of ego. Second law is a natural consequence of that is when 2 people are acting with ego on their sides, each one is acting according to his own ego, there will be a clash. So society has to step in and say, no, you can't have, your ego is fine, but there has to be a limit to that. So social rules come into the picture. Okay? The social rules. You have to have harmony with your neighbors, you have to pay your income tax, you have to obey traffic rules. You can't do all that without. So all these are rules made by the society, and there's nothing moral about it. Okay? It's just rules. These are social standard. Then the third standard is morality. Society at this level 2 imposes certain conditions on all individuals. At the third level is the individual himself who now, because he has a mind, he thinks of what is right and wrong, and he develops morality and ethics. And he imposes that on everybody because he feels that everybody will understand what I'm saying. And there is a good and there is a bad. And so morality comes into the picture. That's the third level of conduct. And morality means laws, fixed rules. Don't tell lies. Okay? Don't kill anybody. Be kind to everybody. These are all rules of morality. The last stage is the spiritual stage, where best summarized by the Gita's Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Saranam Vraja. Give up all standards of conduct and be totally free. Those things which morality is forbidding you to do, even if necessary, you can do that also. If your consciousness is in me, I am in fact, the divine is telling him, I am in fact creating and destroying all the time. I am killing everybody and everything and again recreating it. So no laws apply at the spiritual level. So these are the four standards of conduct. Keep this in mind and we'll read the the next paragraph. Because I said to anticipate, because sometimes we don't know how Srendra is developing his theme. But if you know how he is developing his theme, each paragraph fits in very well. That's all. So now we read.
Ranganath, one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
One question, Ranganath, because
Yes.
you said the second law is the society law.
That's right.
But then society is made of human beings, no? So it is individual also, because all the individuals together make that law, and the moral law also, all the individuals make the law. So what is the difference?
Okay. No, it's a collectivity. It's not the individual who makes the laws. It's a collectivity. And note that collectivity is on changing. The laws in one country will be totally different from another country. Okay. So it's a collectivity that imposes laws on the individuals. And what is a collectivity? It can be a king, it can be a coalition government, it can be a democracy. It's a society in general that imposes laws on the individuals. In the morality, is the individual who creates the laws and imposes on everybody else. But that's the difference. So I will tell you that very clearly. Pallavi?
Yes, Ranganath.
Yeah. There is, it's what you said is true. Society is formed of individuals. But there is a certain collectivity also. There is a truth to collectivity. No? You must remember that. Yeah.
But then in the moral law also, collectivity has to follow that individual law, no?
Yeah, but he will tell you that they don't. Who is obeying? Don't tell lies. Who is obeying that? Hardly anybody. It's an ideal. It's an ideal. We say you should not murder anybody. Murders are taking place every day. So,
yes, I understand.
So if they will tell you about morality, he will say it's only announced but never practiced. Okay, let's read the next one. Pallavi, you read. Tuesday is your day. Even when we have arrived.
Even when we have.
Yeah, go ahead.
Even when we have arrived at some glimpse of this idea or succeeded in fixing it in our consciousness as a knowledge of the mind and a consequent attitude of the soul, it is difficult for us in our outward parts and active nature to square accounts between this universal standpoint and the claims of our personal opinion, our personal will, our personal emotion and desire. We are forced still to go on dealing with this indivisible movement as if it were a mass of impersonal material out of which we, the ego, the person, have to carve something according to our own will and mental fantasy by a personal struggle and effort. This is man's normal attitude towards his environment, actually false because our ego and its will are creations and puppets of the cosmic forces, and it is only when we withdraw from ego into the consciousness of the divine knowledge will of the eternal who acts in them that we can be by a sort of deputation from above their master. And yet it is this personal position, the right attitude for man, so long as he cherishes his individuality and has not yet fully developed it. For without this viewpoint and motive force, he cannot grow in his ego, cannot sufficiently develop and differentiate himself out of the subconscious or half-conscious universal mass existence.
So this para is introducing to the idea that the ego is something very, very fundamental. And even if you know mentally, all of us now know mentally that there is a connectedness. But our action will still be not on unity, but on individual separateness. That's what he's telling you here. Okay. I'll quickly read each sentence. It is very clear what he's saying. Even when we have arrived at some glimpse of this idea or succeeded in fixing it in our consciousness as a knowledge of the mind, okay, not a knowledge of the soul, okay, knowledge of the mind and a consequent attitude of the soul, okay, consequent attitude of the soul. Even you may realize that I should not be selfish, I should work in tandem with everybody, I should be in harmony with everybody. Still, we are not able to do it. That's what he is hinting at. It is difficult for us in our outward parts. Which are the outward parts? Body, mind, and life. Okay? They are the outward parts. The inner parts are also there. There is an inner mind, there is an inner vital, there is an inner physical also. And deep inside, behind the inner mind, physical, there is a psychic being. Those are the inner parts. So the outer parts, body, mind, life. And active nature. Yeah, active nature. Movement all the time in the thought, in the mind, in the vital and the body. Active. Constant movement is there. It is difficult for us in our outward parts and active nature to square accounts between the universal standpoint and the claims of our personal opinion, our personal will, our personal emotion and desire. So, all these are very difficult to harmonize with the rest of your society. Okay. We are forced still to go on dealing with this indivisible movement as if it were a mass of impersonal material out of which we, the ego, the person, have to carve something according to our own will and mental fantasy by personal struggle and effort. In fact, I can sum up this whole sentence in those other words. We are always acting against the universe. We are always thinking of ourselves and we are acting against the universe. Even when we are trying to have a harmony with the universe, it's only for selfish purposes. But we should act actually with the universe and not against the universe. That sums up what he's saying in the Bible. We are forced to still to go on dealing with this indivisible movement as if it were a mass of impersonal material. It doesn't matter so much. Impersonal material. Even if I act against the impersonal material will not feel. Okay? Out of which we, the ego, the person. Note the word person, P lowercase. Okay? The body, mind, life. When he uses the word person with a P cap, he means the psychic or the soul. Okay? We have to carve something out according to our own will and mental fantasy. There may be no truth in what we are thinking. That's a fantasy. But still we want to do what we think is right by personal struggle and effort. This is man's normal attitude towards his environment. Everybody does it. Everybody acts for his own benefit. Actually false because our ego and its will are creations and puppets of the cosmic forces. And it's only when we withdraw from ego into the consciousness of the divine knowledge will. Okay? Now, knowledge will, Chit Shakti. Chit, knowledge, consciousness, you can equate with knowledge, and Shakti, okay, which is the force, you can equate with will. Chit Shakti at the higher level, consciousness force, becomes knowledge will at the lower levels. It becomes very specific of the eternal who acts in them that we can be by a sort of deputation from above their master. So only when you go to the divine knowledge will at the highest level, then you can become the master of your body, mind, life, but as a deputation, as though the divine has allowed you to. Okay, it's not full power, but you are allowed to become master of your. Even in the spiritual planes of consciousness level 2, some amount of control over the body, mind, life comes. Okay. In the beginning, you feel that you don't have any power, but as you keep rising from higher mind to illumined mind to intuitive mind, you feel that yes, you can have a say in what your mind, your vital and your body is doing. It has a say. And yet, is this personal position the right attitude for man so long as he cherishes his individuality and has not yet fully developed it? Very clear statement. If you are not sufficiently developed, then you have the right to develop it. Okay? You have a right to egoistic action. There is no question of spiritual life or yogic life. You are at that level where you have to develop yourself first. And yet is this personal position the right attitude for man, so long as he cherishes his individuality, not the collectivity, and has not yet fully developed it. For without this viewpoint and motive force, he cannot grow in his ego, cannot sufficiently develop and differentiate himself out of the subconscious or half-conscious universal mass existence. Those who don't have a personality and those who have not got a strong individuality, they like leaves in the wind. There is no purpose to their life. So they have to develop that purpose and they have to act in a way which will develop them. So that's the first standard of conduct. They have not yet said it's first standard, but that's the first standard. That's why I gave you an overall view of all the four standards. Then we can recognize immediately now what we say. Okay? So we can stop here today. And next time, we will. Because the next 2-3 paras, he will be discussing this only. And then after 2-3 paras, he will go to the second law. That's the reason why I gave you an overall picture so that we know exactly what he is going to say. And when he says something, then we understand it's part of this. Law 1, Law 2, Law 3, Law 4. Okay? All right. So we stop here today.
Thank you, Rangata.
Merci beaucoup, Rangada. Bonne journée.